like to introduce to you the TruPortal product line. TruPortal is an access control platform designed to fit in the small to medium-sized market. It is a Linux-based panel which does not require an application server in order to function. The system data is accessed via an HTML interface using your browser as the GUI or a supported mobile device application. A quick overview of the system's parameters. As a salesperson, we know you have a lot of numbers retained in your head. When it comes to TruPortal, simply remember the numbers 10,000, 64, and 5. The system can support up to 64 doors of access control. These doors can be configured with a single reader and free egress, or they can be configured as read-in and read-out doors. If you choose to configure your doors with read-in and read-out readers, the system can support 32 doors of this type. The database will allow for 10,000 cardholders, 10,000 credentials with a maximum of 5 credentials per cardholder. For an exhaustive look at all of the system's parameters, please review this data sheet. 64 individual access levels can be configured into the system. 64 individual schedules are supported. 64 cameras can be added via 4 recording devices. 5 individual concurrent clients can be connected via web browser, iOS, or Android applications. Lastly, over 64,000 events can be retained in the event log. There are 4 485 communication buses on the master panel for distributed architecture. This is done to allow for system distribution of your reader modules to minimize the impact in the event of a communication link failure. Let's take a closer look at the master panel. Starting at the top left-hand side, you will see terminal block CN1. This allows for 12 volts direct current to power the panel. Below that is CN2, which allows for either 18 volts alternating current or 24 volts direct current to power the panel. CN37 is the small white plug-in for the panel power LED. This terminal is providing 18 volts AC or 24 volts DC depending on the panel power. This voltage is designed to power a status LED only and should not be used to power auxiliary devices. Below CN37 is the CN3 or auxiliary power outputs. The amperage provided by these outputs is based on the total draw of your system but can be up to 1.4 amps. Moving on, we see CN4 and CN5 are the first set of auxiliary relays. These are dry contacts, meaning they do not provide voltage but allow voltage to pass through them. The relays are Form C and can be configured normally open or normally closed as needed. The relays are rated for 30 volts direct current at 1 amp. CN6 is one of 2 unsupervised panel tamper inputs. It is typically wired to a micro switch which monitors the door status of the TruPortal enclosure. On the back side of the panel, we can see an additional tamper switch comprised of a spring-loaded switch. This prevents the enclosure from being removed from the surface it has been installed upon without the enunciation of a tamper alarm. On the bottom left of the panel is CN7, the first of our lock output relays. This is also a dry contact Form C relay. This too is rated for 30 volts direct current, but at 5 amps to handle switching one leg of locking hardware power. To the right of CN7 are CN8 and CN9. These inputs can be configured to be unsupervised 1, 2, or 4 state supervision depending on the programming options selected and resistors used. The panel supports the use of 1K, 2K end-of-line resistors for supervised inputs. Moving from left to right along the bottom of the board, we can see CN10 and CN11 make up the access reader terminal blocks. Basic access readers using 4 conductors can be wired here all the way up to a reader using 9 conductors to allow for LEDs, buzzer, and tamper signals. It's important to note that if you are using read-in and read-out access readers, the power and LED portion of your additional reader wiring would be paralleled on terminals CN10 and CN11. CN12 is the breakout for the data conductors of your secondary reader wiring. Next to CN12 is CN13, which is an additional auxiliary relay rated for 30 volts DC at 1 amp. After CN13, the terminal blocks CN14 through CN20 Repeat the configuration to allow for the second door wiring. At the bottom of the right-hand side of the panel, we find CN21 and CN22, which are auxiliary inputs configurable to be either unsupervised or 1, 2, or 4 state supervision. Moving up the panel from CN22, we see the first of 4 RS-485 communication bus terminals. These terminal blocks allow for the wiring of auxiliary downstream devices such as additional 2-door controllers or input-output doors. The snap bus wiring is referred to as 2-wired 485. 2 conductors are required for communication and 2 conductors are required for power. The downstream modules can be powered by external power supplies. Best practice regarding 485 wiring recommends that all modules on the bus share a common ground. At the top right-hand side of the panel, you will see the CN27 terminal block. This is designated as the V-bus, which is used for internal enclosure communications to additional modules. The functionality parameters of this bus require the wires not exceed the boundary of the enclosure in order to work properly. At the top right-hand side of the panel is 2 USB ports. These ports are designed to be used for panel firmware upgrades. They provide 200 mA of power and are not designed to power any external device. To the left of the USB ports, you will see the Ethernet port 2. It has been configured with a static IP address from the factory and is utilized upon initial setup of the panel's parameters. Once a non-factory IP address is assigned to the panel, Ethernet port 1 is used. Ethernet port 1 is located to the left of Ethernet port 2 and is designed to be used for the day-to-day LAN or WAN network communications of your system. To the left of the Ethernet ports, you will find CN32, the backup battery terminals. The left-hand terminal, or terminal CN32, is the positive leg. The right-hand terminal, or terminal CN29, is the negative leg of the circuit. To the left of the CN32 battery terminal, you will see a modem connection. This is a legacy feature and is no longer supported on the network master panels. This concludes our in-depth look at the master panel. Let us now turn our attention to the software.